The Mother World rules the galaxy with an iron fist. A farming village comes under fire. A hero tries to build an army and more as the Sky Guys are back to review Rebel Moon Part 1.
All right, we are back here on the Sky Guys podcast. As we promised here, we did watch Rebel Moon last week. The project could have been a Star Wars movie before Disney rejected Zack Snyder's pitch. He took it to Netflix, reworked into his own movie. We are here to discuss what we saw from the movie. We all watched it. I'm one of your hosts, Mike Phillips. Join me today, as always, man, his voice you hear in the narration every single week. Pete Consadori is here. Pete, how are you?
Doing well. Very excited to see what you guys thought about Rebel Moon. Definitely something different from what we're used to, which is Star Wars. Star Wars adjacent, I guess you would call it. But very excited to see what your opinions are on it, and just always great to talk with you guys.
Yep. Also with us here today, the top admiral from the mothership, Nick Fraietta, is here. Nick, how are you?
Doing very well. Very excited to talk about this movie. I could definitely tell it was pitched as a Star Wars movie from even the first 5 minutes. So I'm excited to hear what you guys thought of the movie.
Absolutely. Then we can talk about it in a minute. But Pete, he wants to subscribe to us on the Sky Guys and do so Apple Podcasts, Google Play, TuneIn, Spotify, Amazon, all the usual suspects. Simply search for the Sky Guys for your podcast platform and find episodes there. And it might be a little bit before we get another Star Wars show. We do have a lot of fun stuff coming up here over the next few months.
We do. So you got to make sure you're subscribed. A lot of exclusive stuff that you don't want to miss out. We say it every week. Make sure you're subscribed.
Yep. And Nick, people want to follow us on social media. How can they do that?
They can follow at Sky Guys Podcast. That's on Instagram. It's on Twitter. It's on Threads. And it's on TikTok.
Yep. You can also check out the YouTube version here. Mike Phillips on YouTube. We have the video version of the podcast. You have the props. You have the graphics. And we have character who I feel like would have been not been out of place this movie here this week. I feel like Palimato could have been a good cameo on here.
Oh, please.
She would have fit right in, Pete.
Can't believe you own a Pelimata Lego.
I don't know if she's gonna fit in, bro.
I mean, with all the characters you got in this movie, I could see them making Palimato work.
Yeah, big problem with this movie. Too many characters. But
so before we get to the movie, though, let's get some Star Wars news here. Nick, what do you got?
Sure. So the first thing is we talked about Adam Driver and Kylo last week and how the original arc and this and that. Well, Adam Driver, more news on him, says that he is no longer going to do any Star Wars projects. He said they are working on stuff, the producers are doing stuff, but I am not involved at all.
Yeah, Pete, real quick, do you think this is more they don't want you, or he's saying I'm done?
I think he's saying he's done. I mean, he blatantly came out and said how it was very confusing how his character progressed. And I think he just as an actor doesn't want to go back to it. He probably saw it as maybe unprofessional, not to put words in his mouth or to speculate, but probably doesn't want to deal with the character anymore, considering the route that it took.
Yeah, as my read too, Nick, I've sort of looked at that he's sort of now this trilogy's version of Harrison Ford wants nothing to do with the franchise again.
Right. Yeah, I agree. Funny, came from his son.
Yep.
In canon or in lore.
What else you got?
Next piece of news, I'm gonna need your help here on the pronunciation here.
Yeah, let me 1 second. Go back and check. I know something.
Charmin.
Yeah, Charmin Obaid Chinoy is what I'm going with.
Obaid Chinoy, who is directing the upcoming Rey movie, which is presumably the next movie that's going to be coming out for Star Wars, says it is about time that we have a woman shape the galaxy of the galaxy far, far away. Meaning, it's about time that a woman is a director of a Star Wars project film. I think this is unbelievably ridiculous. I think that this is 100% clear and obvious to me that this director has never seen any of the Star Wars material outside of the movies and had no idea that there have been many female directors in Star Wars.
Yeah.
And I just can't understand how they keep hiring people who have never seen Star Wars before. It blows my mind.
Yeah, but I think some point somebody could have gone to her and said, hey, we had a female showrunner. Like Deborah Chow did Kenobi. She did that. We had a bunch of people do Mandalorian. Went to female directors pop through there. Female directors on Book of Boba Fett. So, you're not the first one on the whole franchise. Yes, it's the first on the movie, but Pete, I think this is getting a lot of hate on the internet for a lot of reasons.
Yeah, I mean, I personally don't care who the director is. I care about the content. So whatever she wants to say, it's her opinion, sure. if she produces a great Star Wars film, then more power to her. If not, we'll critique the content for what it is. I really don't care who's directing it.
Yeah, Nick, I
Yeah,
think
I agree. And I feel like she is baiting people at this point and like daring them to hate the movie. And this is not the direction you want to go on when you're trying to win back the fan base. You lost everyone, whether you liked them or not, you lost everyone in 8 and 9. You lost everyone. That's why they've been out of theaters for coming up on 5 years now. This
yeah.
is the movie that you're trying to get people back in, and you're already telling them, you know what? Yeah, hate it. I'm daring you to hate it. This is like it's like the exact opposite of what should be going on right now.
Yeah, that's a problem.
It is. It is, and we'll see. I mean, look, I have a bold prediction, a very bold prediction, but I think this movie flops unbelievably hard. That the other two movies are completely shelved.
I think you're going a little too far on that. I don't think they're going to completely shelve both movies.
Like,
I think they,
I don't think this movie's going to break 700 million in the box office.
well, how much are they spending on it? That's the next question.
Well, I mean, Solo broke like 600 million, and it was considered a huge failure.
Yeah.
I don't think this movie's going to do well at all. You're talking about now what they can do, which I think they eventually will do, which will make this movie money. If this movie decides to rename itself Episode 10, it will be a success.
Yes.
But if they keep it at whatever they're deciding to name it, which I think at this point is New Jedi Order, I'm not sure that's just a working title. It could easily be fake. I don't think anyone's going to see it. Anyone.
All right. Well,
Of course, Star Wars fans are, but outside of that, I don't think anyone's going to see it.
you think the casuals are out?
No, I think they're, yeah, well, yes, I agree with you. I mean, like, no, they're not going to see it. Yes, I agree with you. I don't think there's a chance they see it.
All right. Is that it for the news department this week?
Yes.
All right. So let's get to the main event here. Rebel Moon Part 1 dropped in theaters December 15th, dropped on Netflix December 21st. 2 hour, 15 minutes. Part 1. I believe the subtitle of the movie here I'm looking up here is A Child of Fire. Part 2 is coming in 6 months here. So we talked about this several times in this podcast that this was basically an idea that Zack Snyder pitched to Disney right after the merger. They said no thanks, but no thanks. He reworked it into his own sort of idea. We see the influence in it. So Nick, your take on this movie.
I love the concept of the movie. I thought the background was really cool. It was supposed to be a Star Wars film, and you can tell right away it's supposed to be a Star Wars film when you're entering this universe for the first time. The first 5-10 minutes, you're like, "Wow, this is clearly supposed to be a Star Wars movie. It seems just like Star Wars. It was really interesting." Um, Even the costumes, from everything that I was like, "Wow, this looks awesome." But there's no other way to put it. The movie sucked, but it was an awesome concept. But it was a bad movie.
Yeah, great idea, bad execution.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pete, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't say it better myself. I think that's exactly the point, for sure.
Yeah, I think for me, it's like I see where he's going. I see what he wants to do. I see the influences of Pete. What was the term you told me off air of like how you describe this movie?
It's like from the text messages when it
Yes.
first.
Yeah.
Oh god, I gotta go back. Let me hit the archives. Hold that thought.
Yeah, so Pete's checking on that because Pete had a great analogy for it. But the thing I noticed with this movie is very much like, oh, like we have a bunch of inspiration from different franchises in here. And your quintessential Zack Snyder slow mo and the crazy lighting from 300 is back, and like way too many characters. Like, and then oh, there's an R-rated version I haven't put out yet that's 3 hours long. It's typical Zack Snyder nonsense. And Pete, that's his answer here.
Yeah, so I want to add something to it. So my original text to you was it's like Star Wars Starfield the game and John Wick had a child. But then I want to add in Hunger Games.
Yes.
It was just all these like kind of movies that have already been made just kind of lumped into one.
And there's one specific Harry Potter scene in there as well.
There is one Harry Potter scene as well.
I found it weird, but also kind of cool that there were like farmers who were wearing like Earth clothes. Like they're clearly not on Earth, but like it seemed like they were on Earth, but the way they were dressed. I just found that kind of interesting.
Pete, we're adding Avatar: The Last Airbender to the list also.
Sure. I mean, you can add a bunch of stuff to it,
Yeah.
I think.
Yes, for sure here. So I know you guys are Star Wars fans. Probably not gonna watch this movie like crazy. So let's give them a very brief plot synopsis, Nick. So I think we can explain this movie here. So I'm gonna give you the 2 minute version of Rebel Moon, and you guys let me know if I missed anything. So,
All right, go ahead.
so we are living in a galaxy where this group called the Mother World has taken control. Think of them as this universe's equivalent to the Empire. They had a king, a queen, and a princess. The royal family basically has been assassinated. Now the Mother World's military is ruling, led by this General Noble, his name is. So they
Admiral.
Admiral Noble. So he's the general of the army, basically. And then he
Yeah.
goes to this farming planet to basically extort them and say, hey, we need some of your crop to feed our army. The farmers say no. He executes the head farmer. They go ahead and basically occupy the planet. The group of occupying soldiers minus one dissident who, like, we see for 5 seconds, it just disappears. And there's a droid voiced by Anthony Hopkins. I have to mention that as well. So they decided to say, hey, we're gonna like basically like rape a local girl. This farmer we see in the background comes in, kills all of them basically, and says, we got to defend this farming village. She recruits this guy Gunner, who was one of the farmers tried to make a deal with the Mother World. They go on a fetch quest to form the RPG party that's going to fight the whole thing. They meet a bunch of rebels. They get to a big, like, sort of climax movie where their pilot Kai, who is the Han Solo of the group, basically turns them over to the Mother World. He gets killed by Gunner. We have a whole fight scene break out here. Noble gets killed, but resurrected at the end of the movie, and the Warriors are sort of playing their next move. That's the movie in about 2 minutes.
Yeah. Can we talk about how lazy it is that they're called the Mother World?
Sure.
That's really lazy, right?
Yeah.
I was like, oh, the Mother World. Okay, maybe we're gonna get a name for this world, and like this is called like the establishment or something. Nope, nope. They're just called the Mother World, and they're from the Mother World.
Yep.
Yeah, maybe that was a little lazy.
Yeah, Pete, did I miss anything on this?
I don't think so. No.
Yeah, we did. We summed up 2 hours and 15 minutes in 2 minutes, which is not a good sign for the state of the complexity of the movie's plot.
And I don't think you missed anything.
No, I guess I think it summed it up generally. May have left out specifics of like the specific like meetings with the people, but we do have a lot going on here in terms of other stuff. But Nick, let's talk about a couple other angles here to look here in terms of the Star Wars influences here. So let's start here. Like, which Star Wars influences do you see in this movie?
Right away, obviously, the Mother World is the Empire, right?
Yep, I would agree.
100%. And also, they're clearly based. I know the Empire was based on the Nazis.
Yes,
This is clearly based on the Nazis.
the uniforms they wear are very similar. Also,
Yeah, that's what I was getting at. Yeah, the uniforms as well. The farmers remind me a lot of what we've seen in the Clone Wars. You
yeah,
see a bunch of like episodes. There's a specific episode that I think of where they train the farmers to fight. Remember that?
yes,
It reminds me similar to that. Um, what else? I guess you said Kai is like the Han Solo. I agree with that as well. There's a droid.
yeah. We have a talking droid played by Anthony Hopkins
Yeah, I mean, you could have told me that this is a Star Wars movie that takes place
in that other
like
galaxy where
yeah, in another but also not even another galaxy. You could have told me this takes place between 3 and 4 and it's its own movie. And the Empire went to go kill people to get their crops, and they had to go build the rebels, and that's how the rebels started. And if we had no previous material on how the rebellion was started, you could have told me this was it, and I would have believed it.
yeah. P. Any other Star Wars influences you saw from the project here?
Um, Not really. I just think the overall theming and the story just felt like it could have been a Star Wars movie.
Yeah,
Honestly, I mean, this might be a hot take. Like, would you guys, just a question for you, I mean, we may get to this later so we can table it, but do you think a concept like this would have been better for an episode, not as episode 7, to start off the new uh franchise? But we can get to that later too if you guys want.
I think we could definitely discuss that later. I think that's actually our next area we're going to here in terms of it's a good question to kick us off here, Pete, because Pete just basically the next thing I was gonna ask, like, how does it work in a Star Wars film? So your pitch is if this was starring a sequel trilogy, something like this, you would have been like interested.
Um I think it has a little bit more backstory to who the person is than Rey. I think Rey was just like, here's the character. There's really no backstory. She's the new Jedi. Um, but I think it could have worked.
Yeah, I think it could have worked here too. And Nick, I do think like we have a whole new sort of empire thing with the cycle sort of starting over here. We have a female protagonist. We're getting some heroes together here. We have a defector from the Mother World's army sort of is there. Though this guy, we forgot about this guy. He sort of just dips after he helps them fight off fight his own unit off. He just we never see him again.
Who was that? The defector guy?
Yeah,
Yeah, that's true. What was the actor's name? Do you know?
I do not know. I know it's that one soldier who was like not getting along with the rest of them, and he turns and helps Cora when she comes in to just like lay wreck to all these guys.
He looks so familiar though. I think he's in. Is he in the MCU?
I try first thing I figure out who this character is
I
because
think he is. But anywho, you had mentioned like where you think this would work as a Star Wars film, and I answered my opinion on that. I think it would work okay as an establishment as to how the rebellion was started, kind of.
yeah,
But we already had that information in other contexts, like in other media. So I guess that this just wouldn't work. But
yeah,
I don't know. It doesn't remind you of an episode 4.
a little
You
bit.
watch this. You watch the first Lord of the Rings movie. You watch the first season of Game of Thrones. It's all the same. And you watch Star Wars Episode 4, of course, where 15 to 20 years ago something really big happened, and then it's been quiet until now.
Yeah,
And that's pretty much how a lot of these franchises get started, and that's what it seemed like to me, at least in the beginning.
yeah, that's for sure. Here, I do think I could see this working as sort of as Pete said, I think in episode seven's like replacement, I think that this could work. I think you could see like between 3 and 4, there was a lot of parallels here. Like this would have been a story. I think this was the original page. Like, hey, I have a story of the Empire being complete assholes to people, and Disney was like, sexual assault? No, 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 no. We want no part of this.
Well, I mean, they didn't have to put that part in. I mean, there could have been something else like killing the leader that made the person want to do that. I mean, I think that the idea was brought up. I don't think a full blown script was. I mean, I could be wrong. Am I wrong on that? Was it a idea pitch, or he had a script in hand and said, "Here, read this. This could be episode 7."
From what I believe it was like, here, I have an idea for a Star Wars movie. Here's my script. Take a look at it. And they said, no, thank you.
Yeah, I mean, look, then that's fair. If they had a full script and exactly what Zack Snyder wanted to do, I can see maybe why. But I mean, you could work with people. I mean, I think this was a little bit better idea when it comes to the backstory, but
Yeah. I think also, Nick, I'll mention here as we sort of go into our critiques of the movie here. I do think that like the violence level of this movie is so high that like there is no shot in hell Disney would have like let this go the way Zack Snyder wanted it to go.
Could you repeat that? I got the gist of it, but could you repeat that, please?
I think the level of violence in this movie
Yeah.
that Zack Snyder wants to do with all the slow-mo shots and like some of like the gory shots of like people getting injured. I know it's PG-13 rated technically, but like I believe that like there's no way Disney would let this level of violence go into a Star
Oh,
Wars.
I completely agreed. Yeah, I'm also very curious as to know, like, clearly this wasn't the original story. It
No,
couldn't be. It wouldn't make sense in Star Wars. I want to know what was reworked.
yeah,
I would love to know that, because if it was reworked into something like, maybe it was a movie that was originally Episode 7, or could have been in place of that, or in between 6 and 7. Maybe it was something that took place after 3. We don't really know that because we don't know what the original idea and plan for this movie was. And I'd be very interested to know that. And you know what? Maybe in the future we'll find out.
yeah, maybe we'll find out. Let's get to some critiques of this movie here. So Pete, you want to start airing some grievances with Rebel Moon?
I mean, the first one that I'm sure you guys will all say is pacing. I think pacing was terrible. I think they tried to shove 5 pounds of crap into a 2 pound bag. Um, this should have been a 3 part movie, and they should have taken a little bit more time, and maybe less characters to introduce. And I think that the pacing really made this movie not land for me as hard as it probably should have. I think it was a great concept, but they rushed through it like beyond belief.
Yeah, I believe Nick, like how many characters we introduced to in this fighting party? Like 5 or 6?
Yeah, I think so. It that's big problem. Too many characters, pacing obviously as well. Um, and personally, I don't like the lighting and stuff, but that's not a nitpick. That's completely subjective. Um, Also big problem. I think it's laziness with the mother world and whatnot. Like that's crazy. That's crazy to me. That's what it's called. But that's his idea for what it should be called. That's his idea. Who am I to say it's a bad idea? But to me, one of the worst things this movie had going for it, like at all, was the fact that it's like, uh, yeah,
You need a man?
this whole idea of like this happened 20 years ago. Now we're gonna like it's almost like they when Star Wars was made, it was the idea that it was going to be one movie, and
Yeah.
then eventually it became more and more and more and more and more. This seems like it's going in with the idea of this is going to be a whole franchise and have 9 movies. No, it's not, and I feel like that holds the movie back.
I mean, he makes it clear, part one, part two. Like he decided that
Right? Yeah, I know we're having two. I know we're doing that. I know two is I think April, but I feel like he's under the impression that this is going to become a whole universe like Star Wars that have prequels and all this and show us the king and queen getting murdered. Like
yeah,
this isn't happening, and it's going in with the assumption that that's going to happen. I feel like.
yeah. I'll be fair to Zack Snyder though, Pete. This movie was like #1 on Netflix for at least a couple of weeks around Christmas.
Yeah, well, the hype was real. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I could not get into these characters. Like, not to say I didn't care, but like all
There's just
the
too many.
all of the parts that they kept making like seem like, oh my god, this was like a turning point in the mother world. It's like didn't really seem crazy. Like it's like, oh, all right.
Yeah, we don't know the mother world.
Yeah, we haven't
Right.
seen the Mother World in terms of
Right. I mean, they talk about like the king's daughter and all, like it just is all very like I don't know.
It's like
I
you see
wasn't
that
invested. I
they're
wasn't
trying to like
invested at
make
all.
something. It's almost like they show something on the screen and you're supposed to be like, oh my god, wow. It's like I don't care. I know these characters for 20 minutes. But the only movie that I've ever really felt that from that it worked was Rogue One.
yeah. And that helped because we were in a universe we already knew. So like that was something like, oh, like these characters are here, like, but like I know the story spot in the background.
Right, we've known that
It's going,
story for 40 years before that movie came out. It was, oh, this is how they got the plans. Okay.
yeah, I know what they're dealing with. In terms of the character thing, I think the thing that's like frustrating the characters is that A, there's too many. B, we have characters we think are important and just disappear for no reason, like the dissident soldier and Pete. Does Anthony Hopkins' droid show up again for the first like 25 minutes of the movie?
Only at the
No,
end.
at the end. That's
Yeah, but
about it. Like literally right at the end, almost like, oh look, he's still around, and now he like is the leader of the deer people or something. I don't know.
that made no sense to me with that. Plus, I mean, like the way we get introduced to all these characters, like the pacing is really problematic. You're trying to recruit people for the RPG team, where like we meet the guy Tarek, who's like the slave to the noble to like the rich guy. He's like, oh, if you can fly the hippogriff from Harry Potter, right? Literally, it's the hippogriff. Like you can fly this. We get a majestic like 5 minute scene of him bonding with the hippogriff and flying, and the hippogriff kills the nobleman. Like we get that whole scene, and then about like 3 people later, we go find this general on this planet who's been depressed and living in a gladiator ring for 20 years. He lost the battle, and Cora gives him a 2 second pet talk. Oh, hey, we need your help, and he's like, "Great, I'm in." I'm like, "Wait, what? Like it was that easy?"
I feel like I want this movie just like again. Like, no. Take this, whatever you made, and just try again.
Like do it, like reset the game.
Yeah, reset it, but don't change the character. I mean, should get rid of some of them, but you know what I mean. Don't change like the concept here. Just try again with what your premise.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a fair critique here. And Pete, I think we got to talk about the CGI also here because that was also a hot mess.
CGI was bad in the background. The foreground was fine. Um, I'm with Nick. I don't like Zack Snyder's style in this, and I haven't seen a lot of Zack Snyder movies, admittedly. But it just didn't work. It almost looked like you were looking at a fake background on a nice foreground, and it just looked cheap to me.
Yeah, way too much slow mo also.
So I don't know much about budgeting in movies, but I can tell you this.
Yes.
This is a sci-fi movie, right? There's no debate on that. Another example of like a big sci-fi movie like this would be Star Wars, right?
Yeah, sure.
So let's take a random Star Wars movie. I'll take The Last Jedi, for example. The
Okay.
budget of The Last Jedi was 300 million.
Yep.
The budget for this movie was 160 million, and that includes both movies. So somewhere around 80 if you were dividing by two, right?
Yeah.
So that's I know Star Wars budgets are probably some of the biggest budgets in the world, right?
Yeah.
But if you're filming a sci-fi movie and you're that it sounds like the budget's pretty low to me. Am I wrong to assume that? Is 80 million low for a sci-fi movie? I don't really know.
I think you can do a good sci-fi movie, Pete, but I think you have to use your money effectively.
I think that's, especially in today's day and age, I think it's tough.
Yeah.
Like Interstellar. I feel like that's a good random movie, right?
Yeah.
That budget was twice that.
Yeah.
Twice that. It was 166 million, which is the same as Rebel Moon, but for one movie, not two.
Yeah, by itself.
Right. So I think maybe the budget was a little bit low. Or was this filmed as one movie? Does it matter then in that if that's the case?
It was filmed as one movie.
So then you really kind of treat it the same way as one movie, right? I don't really know. I think so, right?
Yeah, although this is another thing I definitely want to bring up here in the critiques here is that like Zack Snyder's like pacing here is based on, oh, I have a second movie to tell the rest of the story here. And like
Yes, that's what I was trying to say earlier. Yeah.
because that's the problem I have with this. It's sort of like, well, you're like, oh, like this is like only half the story, get the other half in 6 months. And we're gonna also, I have an R-rated cut that's coming in right before the second movie comes out, and it's gonna be 3 hours long, and it's gonna be a different take on the movie. It's like if you have a good idea, just put it in the damn movie. Don't make me wait for an R-rated director's cut because you want to have a director's cut.
Right. This is like it's like DLC in movies. It's like microtransactions. Like just give us the movie.
Yeah, so give us what you actually want to do, not like a scaled down version because you want to have a director's cut.
I'm with you.
I agree.
And Pete, I also will say in terms of this, like, I also don't love the fact that like we're introduced the whole party in this movie. It's like I think if you took three of these characters are introduced to, and I get they wanted to keep the whoever the sword master was because she had the cool lightsaber style sword, so they want to keep her in there. Put a couple people in the second movie, make them you need them to complete the party and make the fight off. It's like everybody was a problem.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I think if they would have spread out who you got at what movie, I think it would have been better. I think you keep the cool little lightsaber blades. If you want to,
He the hippogriff guy.
the hippogriff guy, if you want to, complete that, and then after you meet the rebellion, or whatever, like you're working up to it. Like the last scene is you finally meet the rebellion. They say, okay, let's finish this, or something like that. I feel like there was way more options than how they did it. But I think Zack Snyder was just like, let's front load it with all the crap and like, let's just like, I don't know what to do here. So let's just introduce everyone. And then like, oh, the second movie's going to have all the action and stuff like that. I mean, unfortunately, I feel like that's how a lot of these two-part movies start to come out now, is like the first part's just like a lot of air quote world building where it's really just like rushing through crap. So I agree with you. It would have been better if they spread it out.
Also, Nick, one more critique I have before we get to grading this thing here. The fact that our trader Kai, like, we basically just off him 30 seconds after he turns on them because Gunnar, the farmer guy, like, has his hero moment because he just turns around. They want him to kill Cora, and he turns around and just like shoots Kai in the head and kills him. So like it's a waste of a character. It's like it would have been fun to have him around the years as a foil to either like get interfere with their plans. Maybe they have to work with him reluctantly later on, but like it's a waste of a character just like off him like that.
It's another pacing problem to me. It's like they either waited too long to reveal that he's turned, or they killed him too quickly after he revealed it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
One of the two, depending on how you want to look at it. It's just another pacing problem with the movie, which is, I think, not just a problem with this movie, but a lot of media in general, where everything's a DLC now.
Yeah.
You can't just buy a game. You can't just buy a movie. You can't just buy a TV show. It's always more to it. And you know what? If you're fully invested in a universe like we are with Star Wars, I think it's great because there's more content and more continuity and stuff. But if I just want to sit down and watch a movie, the world is not the same.
Yeah. I would agree with that here. Also, in terms of this rebellion that we do see part of where Ray Fisher's in it and then like he dies and like Like his sister's in it. There's sort of like a Saw and Steel Guerrero dynamic here, except it's reversed. I do think Pete would it have been more fun if like our Kai just turns them in, gets away, and then the rebellion comes in and saves them.
I think. I mean, yeah. I mean, I think there's a lot that we could have done better, right? I mean, I think we could have done that. What I'm saying is, there's a lot that they could have done better, in my opinion, when it came to the storytelling. And I think that you know, I think meeting that rebellion core as a whole in the second movie would have been better than throwing this guy in and having him die.
Yeah.
He was actually one of my favorite characters just from the few moments because it wasn't like it made sense why he was there, you know? But yeah, I agree. Could have been better.
Yeah, and Nick likes to make fun of Pete for the one time he said he could have written the climax Empire Strikes Back better. I don't think Nick would disagree. I think Pete could have written this movie better.
Yeah, I agree.
Yes.
I agree.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
All right, so let's sort of wrap up here. So we'll do what we do for all our projects here. So Nick, who's the MVP of Rebel Moon?
I'll just go with well, I actually, you know what? I'm changing my answer last minute. I was going to say Korra the whole time, our main character here.
Yeah.
And I'm actually gonna go with Admiral Noble here.
Yes.
I think he was a great villain.
Yeah.
And he played the character really well, the actor, and I think it was a really good job there. I'm gonna go with the Admiral.
Yeah, Admiral Noble was your MVP here. So Pete, who's your MVP?
My MVP is the same, but I have to say we are a close second for sitting and watching that movie. But yeah, no, Admiral Noble for me.
Yeah, for me, I'll give Cora some love here for like not being a moron and just caving to the mother world they show up on the farming planet. And she realizes what needs to be done. She lets them try to do their thing and says, you know what, like screw this. I'm not gonna let poor Sam, I think her name was, like get sexually assaulted by the soldiers. And then she says, we gotta protect ourselves, and actually takes initiative on these guys, like, oh, if we play nice with the mother world, maybe they won't kill us. Like she at least had a brain, so I'll give her the MVP for that. Let's go the other way here. So Pete, you could kick us off here for LVP.
Uh Zack Snyder. I'm sorry. He's a successful director and I can't do what he does, but I just don't think he approached this correctly. Pacing was terrible, writing was okay. We'll see how part two pans out, but just horrible decisions by the director, in my opinion.
Yeah, Zack Snyder's the easy one for me. I'm also gonna go here with even though he has the redemptive moment here, Gunner's a moron. Can we just establish that right here? He's the one who's like, yeah, like as the village noble who's elder, who's played, I think, by I forget who the village elder is, like, oh, like we barely have enough to feed ourselves. We'd love to help we can. And he's like, yeah, we have enough stuff. Don't worry. And then like he basically gets his village elders killed for this, and gets his whole plan involved in a mess. So Gunner's the LVP for me. Nick, you want to wrap us up here?
Sure, I'm going in the same direction as Pete, but not the same answer as Pete. Where Pete said Snyder, I'm going with Netflix.
Yes.
Like Disney, I think Disney wisely turned this away.
Yeah.
And Netflix did it. Simple as that. Simple as that. You know, I don't think they should have had this on there. Now, does it matter? No. These movies on Netflix come out weekly.
Yeah, they have movies like all the time.
Yeah, so it may be number one movie on Netflix now. It may, or whatever it is now, still in the top 10. 2 weeks it'll be out. Everyone will forget about it. No one will care. So it won't matter. But I don't know why they really brought this in.
All right, so next up here, grade the movie with our Star Wars scale of 1 to 10. 1 is worth 1978 holiday special. 10 is up there with the. We're hitting Nick. You want to rechristen the new year as sort of the episode 5 of Ahsoka as the pinnacle of live action Star Wars?
Yeah, that's what I always said, right?
Yeah, so I'll start out here. I'm giving this a 4. I think there's enough solid stuff here. As Nick said, beginning of the movie is fun. You really getting sucked in and like, oh, this is cool. And then they slowly lose you as the movie goes on. And there's too many characters. There's people who disappear you think are really important. You have like a bunch of cliches. They're ripping off other franchises. There's potential there, but it's wasted. So that's a 4. So Nick, you can go next to the grade.
I'll give it a 3. I think you made a good point. I think those characters that go away only go away because they're gonna come back in the next movie, and it's just like annoying.
Yeah.
Like you said, the concept is there, but it just doesn't hit because the movie itself loses you along the way.
Yeah. Pete, you want to wrap us up on the grades?
Yeah, I'm at a 3 as well. Concept was good. They tried. They think they failed pretty hard. Again, to your point, they kind of had me in the beginning, and then it just kind of tapered off.
Yeah, as Nick said, first, like what you said, what first half hour off there is great, and then it sort of falls off the cliff.
First 10 minutes is amazing. First half hour's okay, and then it's pretty awful.
So basically, what you're telling me is that Anthony Hopkins, the narrator, really grabbed you.
Yeah, no, I until pretty much until they left for their
Yeah,
journey, I was fully invested.
yeah, it's
Then you
like
started losing me, and then when they picked up Kai in the bar, I was like, "Is this still on?" You know?
like, did your wife happen to walk in while you're watching this movie, ask you what the hell you're watching, like the time you watched the holiday special?
No, she did not. She was long sleeping, but I don't think it looks that crazy like the holiday special does. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's true.
Like if you saw this on, it looks like a man's movie. You know what I
Yes,
mean?
yeah, it's not a bunch of Wookiees talking to each other and growling at each other 15
Right.
minutes without subtitles. All right, so last thing, part two predictions here. So, Nick, what do you think happens in part two?
I think that it sucks again. And I think that we're going to get face to face with what's his name?
Belisarius.
Yep, Belisarius, and I think Cora will kill him.
You think Corey just offs him?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there'll be a fight. I don't think it's going to be that simple, but I think that's going to be like the end of the movie is that he's going to die, and Cora's going to kill him, and they're going to somehow. No, I want to say they're going to take down this mother world, but they're not going to because they want to leave room for part 3 and 4 and 5 and 6, even though no one's going to watch part 2.
Yeah, I would agree. I think what happens here is that they basically drive them off the mother world, drive them off the farm planet, and they basically join the rebellion. I think the crew ends up being part of the rebellion. Now, the rest of our movies are gonna be we have to take down the mother world. Like we're gonna have like trying to do the Avatar thing where we're going to different planets and seeing how the mother world impacts their lives, and then it just doesn't. It's not gonna work as well as Avatar does it. So, Pete, anything you want to add?
No, more and more I think about it, I think this movie will work better as a video game.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think Nick is right.
That would be a good game.
Yeah.
Video game format makes sense, right? Spend an hour
Yeah.
trying to get a partner, then get another partner, then get another partner, then
Yeah.
big boss, and that's the end. Like it would work really well for a video game, but not as a movie.
Yeah, I'm looking on the Wikipedia page for the Rebel Moon here, and note the sequels here that Rebel Moon is planned to be a franchise against a two-part film, each part shot back to back. I was saying here the follow-up was confirmed to be Rebel Moon Part 2, The Scargiver, which is basically the name for Korra's character. Snyder intends to have a third script already to work on the script for the third film already, and he says that he has stated the film is the first in a trilogy, followed by a trilogy of sequels, implying 4 or 5 total movies. Nick,
So here's where I think this won't work.
yes,
I don't think anyone's going to watch anything past this one. But how does Netflix really gauge if we're going to make another one? Based people watching it, right?
yeah, I think
I don't think they really care if they think it's good or not. So people are watching this movie. So I think maybe they get that third one because part 1's going to be watched a lot. But if part 2 is barely watched, then they're going to be like, no.
yeah, no.
Yeah. But if part 1 is watched so much, they might be like, yeah, let's put another one out. People seem to like it. Even if they don't like it, it's watched.
Yeah, and Pete, what's the name of that movie on Netflix that everybody like watched with like with the Rock, Ryan Reynolds, and Gal Gadot? Like that movie, sort of like everybody watching it was crap.
Oh God, I don't even know that movie. I don't think I watched it. So
Yeah, it's like that sort of idea. Like, oh, like I think that they like there's the bar on Netflix for success.
Notice.
Red Notice.
Red Notice.
Yeah, that's sort of the bar here. Is like if it's just gonna be people are talking about it, people are watching on the thing, like, oh, we're gonna give you the same budget, but you can make a movie for us. I don't think there's like is this high, like, oh, it is if you go to the box office, you have to make so much money back.
Well, that's Rebel Moon for you.
Yep, that's it. And Part 2 is coming out in mid-April. So if we don't have a show, we may consider going back and finishing this story. So that's the thing.
I'll probably watch it, to be honest.
Yeah, we might come back and talk about part 2. See if there's a moment here where Korra basically destroys the Death Star. See if that happens.
Yeah.
That could still happen in the sequel here. But next week, inspired by this movie, but with a much better podcast here, we're gonna talk about abandoned Star Wars projects here. And Pete, I went on, did some research. I have a list for us of, I think, at least 13 abandoned TV shows, movies, video games. Discuss, should they have been made? Did Disney make the right call, or Lucas made the right call not doing these things? So we're gonna have some fun with this next week.
Yeah, no, I'm excited. I'm excited to see the list because I haven't seen it yet. I don't think Nick has either. So we're definitely thrilled to do that. I'm very pumped.
Yep, and that's good for us this week. I thank you guys for coming on. Really appreciate it here. And Pete, if you want to follow you on social media, how can you do that?
At Consy29 on Twitter, CONSY29.
All right, Nick, one more time. If you want to follow us on social media, how can you do that?
At Sky Guys Podcasts on Instagram, Twitter X, Threads, and TikTok.
Yep, you can also follow me on social media, mphillips331. It's MPHILIPS 331. This week over on the Just and Suffering podcast, we got 2 episodes. We did Pop Culture Party 5 with friends of the podcast, John Stank and Sam DeRosa. Plus, Nick, I had Bill Benner from the Sporting News on to get ready for the college football playoff national championship game on Monday.
What are your thoughts?
I think Michigan is favored. I think Washington has to play its Big 12 style. They want to win this game.
Well, see.
Yep, that's the C here. And another good friend of the Sky Guys podcast, Joe Simone, came on to do NFL picks.
I heard.
Yes.
He didn't hear his picks, though. Excited to hear them.
Yeah, you'll hear those coming up here as well. And we'll be back next week to talk about abandoned Star Wars projects here. But until then, may the Force be with you.